Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. Yes, it's great to start Friday with a happy mood, with a good beat, and just vibing. So as Eminem would say, let's get down to business. I ain't got no time to play around. What is this? This is TGI Friday. We're thanking God because it is Friday and we love our Fridays because we can ease into the weekend. So I'm Titi Layo Amahil, and my whole gig is about helping people who are struggling with stress and anxiety to create balanced lives and to reconnect with their passions and their purpose. So in order to be able to connect with your life source and that essence of why you're here and following your heart, you need to be able to remove the barriers and remove the fog. In my Freedom from Stress and Burnout tribe group in Facebook, I did a poll recently just to ask, about different topics that people wanted to focus on. And one of the topics that came up, most people voted for, was how to manage an overthinking mind, an overthinking brain, and also how to manage debilitating anxiety. Some other topics were how to build healthy boundaries in relationships, which I will do for another time. So join us on Facebook, because in my group, you get to ask me questions, give me feedback about things you'd like to learn. And of course, I send resources and some freebies, and get to be part of a beautiful interactive community too. Talking about how to manage an overthinking mind. First thing is to just flesh it out a bit and talk about neuroscience. So as we know, neuroplasticity is about the flexibility and your brain being moldable because it's a muscle. And so you can change its shape and you can build it up so that it creates new pathways. The mind, on the other hand, just now, you probably put your mind onto me clicking my fingers, is wherever you place your focus. So your thoughts, your feelings, your mood states, your mind can wander to wherever you choose to place a focus, right? And this is an interesting part about this because the mind is like that puppy mind. It's just everywhere. And sometimes we can feel that we can't control it, and a lot of times, I can't control my overthinking. It's so difficult because it's like a puppy. The puppy, when you have it for the first time, it's running around, it's wrecking the place up, it's sniffing around, curious about what's going on. It might even bring you a toilet brush that you didn't ask for. And that happens to our mind sometimes. We're just sitting down and the next minute you're thinking, how on earth did I get from A to B? So the puppy mind can feel really overwhelming. It can be tiring because it's constantly moving. And in neuroscience, there's a phrase that talks about the neurons that are fired together are also wired together. So whatever thoughts and feelings, wherever you place your focus and you decide to use as a way of thinking on a daily basis, is where your mind will go. So that fired and wired sense is the pathways that you're building. So I like to firstly start with, well, where does that start for you? Depending on your self-talk. Jim Quick has a beautiful definition about the brain that I love. The brain is a computer and your self-talk is the program that it will run. So notice your self-talk. When does that start for you? For me, it's usually in the morning, where all the things start to come to me, all the things that I haven't done or I didn't achieve, or maybe things that I don't feel good about. And it's like it just comes like a storm. For some people, it happens throughout the day. For some of you, it's just before you go to bed. And sometimes we try and avoid that period by watching TV or being busy. But just notice when that happens for you. When do you have this intense self-talk and thought pattern processing? So once you identify that and you know what time that is, then it's time to interrupt the pattern. So we're trying to interrupt that thought pattern from what you normally do. Because that part of your brain that says, okay, it's time, this is what we do every day, We remember the things that, we're probably not encouraged about. I mean, we think about it, 70 to 80,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of that from research shows that it tends to be negative. So if that is the case, then we need to spend time paying attention to what we're thinking about, which is what metacognition is. Just thinking about what you're thinking about. Once you do that, you can start to interrupt the pattern. One of the ways to do that is by being present. Another way of saying mindfulness. Jon Kabat-Zinn is a professor in medicine who set up this mindfulness-based stress reduction clinic, and he brought mindfulness to the Western world from the Eastern philosophers. And I actually met him in Beijing when he came, when I just started my mindfulness journey quite a few years back. And I remember asking him about children, and because I was going to teach this curriculum in the schools, mindfulness for kids. And I said, so how do you teach a child to be mindful? And he said, point of correction. Actually, children are super mindful all the time. As adults, we have a lot to learn from them because they observe everything. They're in the moment. I mean, yesterday I was just walking down the road, and this child who was being carried by his mom just waved at me, and then he said, look at the flowers, look at the birds. And he just brought me to the present moment because I was on autopilot. I was thinking about my day and things I was going to do. And children are always in the moment, being present. So Jon Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness as an awareness that arises. So just coming to your senses when you pay attention in a particular way on purpose to the present moment, non-judgmentally. So I want to underline that non-judgmentally part because that's something that we do a lot, is that we can judge what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and saying, oh, we shouldn't do that. Or your self-talk might be, I'm so dumb, I'm so stupid, what the was I thinking when I did that? And we can be so judgmental in our mind. So he's saying that we're paying attention. We're not dismissing and saying, no, there's nothing there, and repressing those emotions or thoughts. Neither are we over-identifying like the hamster wheel, where we're overthinking and that what if brain kicks in and says, oh, but what if worst case scenario happens? We're just being present. We're just being in the moment. And the easiest way to do that is with your breath, because your breath is with you wherever you go. And so even if you don't have any tools around or any fidget tools or anything to bring you in the moment, your breath will bring you to the present moment. And so you're just noticing your breath. You might even notice, is it shallow? Is it deep? Are you holding your breath? We do that a lot. We don't even notice. Like, we're doing our tasks on the computer, or we're walking around, or we're doing presentations, or we're looking after our kids, and we're like this. So just noticing your breath, seeing how it is, what's the rhythm of it, and bringing yourself to the moment. You might even scan your body just to see what's there. Again, non-judgmentally, without saying, oh, that's a bit off, just noticing. Or you can use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bring you back to your senses, which is 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Even if you can taste nothing, it still brings you to your senses. So the first thing about interrupting that pattern of the brain and that self-talk and that overthinking is to be present. The second thing you can do is to challenge and train those thought patterns. So as we said, the puppy mind, when the puppy comes in, you need to train it. You need to train it to sit, to stop when you want it to stop, to eat at a certain time. And how you train it is so important. Because if you say to a dog, stop it, sit, and in such a loud voice, it could really scare the puppy. It's the same with your mind. We're trying not to be harsh, but to be kind. You can say stop it in a gentle way. So you're telling the brain, stop it. We're not going to be negative on ourselves today. We're going to pause, we're going to breathe, and we're just going to notice, right? And you can say stop it. Sometimes I do that. My kids think I'm going crazy, but I do. We are not doing this today. I tell my mind, we're not doing this today. We're I'm going to challenge this thought process that is making me wonder, and I'm going to train it and bring it back to the present moment. Now, with training, some people say, oh, but I've done mindfulness and I've done all this brain training and it never works. It is training for a reason. You know, to build a muscle, you've got to do it every day. You've got to practice it all the time. Because when you train it, that fired and wired together pathway gets formed. So you've already spent so many years training your mind and your brain in a certain way. So we're trying to untangle that and put a new pathway in. So by interrupting the pattern and saying, stop it, or pause it, whatever language works for you. I need something quite immediate just to be like, let's not do this right now. In as gentle a way as possible, just to interrupt that pattern and bring you to the present moment. So once you've challenged and you start to train, I did a TikTok recently, thank God for teenagers, my daughter, because I have no clue. In fact, I never intended to go on TikTok, but hey, I'll never say never. But I did a TikTok recently about 3 ways to have more energy on Mondays. And it is about connecting with your heart and also manifesting gratitude and bringing that warm, fuzzy feeling into yourself. I'll put a link so you can watch it later. But anything that you can do to interrupt the pattern. For me, first thing in the morning, that's what I do because my thought process just goes berserk at that time. So as soon as I wake up, my hand's straight on my heart and I'm just noticing that heartbeat because that brings me to the present moment and it interrupts that pattern. And then I'm thinking about whether it's my past pets or people or situations that make me laugh or a joke I heard, and I'm bringing that warm, fuzzy feeling into my heart, into my mind. And then after that, it's manifesting gratitude. So the things I'm thankful for, anything that I'm, wanting to project and say, hey, I'm thankful for something that maybe hasn't happened, but I would like to happen. And all these things just interrupt that morning pattern I normally have. Over the years, it's taken time. You have to train, you have to build the muscle. It doesn't happen overnight. Like with any skill, as we know, you need to spend hours and hours doing the same thing over and over again. But scientifically, we know that the neurons that are fired together are wired together. So if you're building this new pathway, then by default, your brain, instead of saying, oh, in the morning, this is what we do, it says, no, this is the new pathway that we're building. So to interrupt the pattern, we're being present, we're challenging and training. And then the last thing, and this is by no means comprehensive, of course, there's a lot more you can do, but this is just some tips that you can take for now. The last thing is to replace it with something else. Run a different program. That could be mantras, it could be spiritual practices, it could be meditations, it could be affirmations, whatever works for you. I have some examples of that. So we're trying to build new pathways. So as you're interrupting that overthinking brain and you're challenging it and saying, stop, we're not doing this right now, bringing yourself to that present moment. And then we're replacing it with other thoughts that you also want to build pathways for in your brain. So for example, you might be worrying about something. This is from Louise Hay's Hard Thoughts. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah. Hard thoughts, and these are affirmations. So one of the affirmations says, I trust the process of life to take care of me. Today is a new day. I will have many wonderful new experiences. I am loved, I am safe, and so it is. So you might start your day panicking. That what if brain that says, what if you don't make that promotion? What if you don't get there on time? What if you mess up your lines? Or what if you never deal with this conflict? What if you never have this relationship? What if you're stuck in this burnout? What if you're stuck in this depression, in this anxiety, in this stress, and there's nothing you can do about it? What if your overthinking brain never stops? So we're being present with that, non-judgmentally observing that, and then we're challenging it by saying, okay, not today, not right now, right? I want to train my puppy mind. And then we're replacing it with this beautiful mantra. I trust the process of life to take care of me. I am loved, I am safe, and so it is. Can you imagine doing this over and over in your mind and in your body, and the pathways that get strengthened as a result of this? And then you add more practices to that. But just try this to start with. Pick a time. Pick maybe a time in the morning or in the evening, and just practice. Be present, challenge and train, and then run a new program with a mantra, affirmation, spiritual practice, whatever floats your boats. I hope this has helped somewhat. In my program, it's much more comprehensive than this. I talk you through the stress cycle, so your triggers, your thoughts, your feelings, your body states, and then the behavior that results. When you are well versed in your thought patterns and your triggers and your stress cycle, you are able to self-regulate better, and it manages that overthinking brain. And of course, as we all know, it's very difficult to do that on our own because we have blind spots. So it's always good to have someone who you trust, a professional or someone who you follow, that can help you do that, because it's that puppy mind. Puppies need us to actually show us what to do step by step. I also understand that it can be overwhelming trying to figure out how to do that. So it's very bite-sized chunks, steps, and strategies that help you, unique to your blueprints. So I hope that helps someone today. I'm going to be doing an interview soon on how to manage a stress cycle, and so you can join me on that. But for today, with TGI Friday, enjoy this weekend. Wake up tomorrow morning and practice what I've mentioned today. Be present, challenge and train, and replace those thought patterns with a new program. Hope to see you soon, and see you on Monday for Mantra Monday.